Ooh.
So we've got a 289 junkyard motor. What's the story on it?
Well, typical junkyard motor. It ran when they parked it. Story on this, one of our viewers reached out to us. They currently have, I think it's a 1964 260 in a 64 Fairlane with a 3-speed manual overdrive transmission, 231,000 miles on it. And they want to build a new engine for it, but they wanted to go to the 289 engine instead of putting the 260 back in. Said they're interested in a standard restoration, no hot rod stuff, although the next sentence here is they'd like to see if we can do a roller cam in it, but they want something, a low-speed torque grind is desired. They don't want to go any more than 20 over on the bore size. Well, we're going to have to figure out how bad the block is when we get in there, because we normally only go what we have to, but it may have to go more than that.
It's a 60-year-old engine that's been parked for 50 years.
Yeah.
But you have no idea what happened in that first 10 years.
Right. We don't know really much about it. Other than he did tell me, and I'll have to look here. Well, here it is. The engine was sourced from a salvage yard down in Lamar, which is the southeast part of our state down here. The yard told him it was out of a 66 Fairlane convertible that was purchased from a Denver auction around 1976. That was the year I graduated from high school. The right front fender and right door was wrecked. The car was driven to the salvage yard and parked for, he says, 45 years, but at this point, well, maybe it was parked there for 45 years, but at this point, we're 49 years later, past 1976. Said the hood was still installed on it, so it was covered, but it was still in the vehicle, sitting out in a salvage yard all those years. He did send a picture here of the engine they're taking out of the car, so they'll probably use like this air cleaner and everything transferred over onto this, because everything should install just the same. He sent some pictures of this engine, must have been as they pulled it out of the car. I haven't seen any of the cars. It still has a ID tag on the front here, says assembly date was April of 1966. He has a casting number here, which is on the side of the block there, but this is a picture of it. And he's evidently a lot sharper about these Ford casting numbers than I am, because he determined that this is a 289 engine, casting the 8th of December, 1965. And then, like I say, that other picture shows that it was assembled in 66. It does have the 6-bolt bell housing. Some of those earlier 260s and 289s had a 5-bolt bell housing. We've had that bite us in the butt before. Had a note here, the front engine cover that requires cast iron water pump has the extra 2 bolts. Again, not being a Ford guy, I'm not familiar with that. Says this was pulled from a 66 Fairlane convertible 3-speed manual with overdrive. Supposedly has 120,000 miles on it. The oil drain plug is oversized, was not installed straight. So some things to kind of note that we're going to have to take care of as we go into it.
He said it turns out, that it turns free. And it does.
Yeah, I can turn it free that much. But if I back this up, I come to a spot it gets tight.
What about the other way?
I go this way and it gets tight again.
So there's something not right.
Something not right. Did a mouse go down in this thing and build a nest on top of a piston? I don't know about that, because usually mice get in there and they start peeing and everything, and it really would have been rusted up and stuck. But there's something that keeps this from turning. Lesson to be learned here is whenever you are buying a junkyard motor, it needs to be able to make 2 full revolutions. Not just 1 revolution, but 2 full revolutions, because the camshaft is turning half speed as what the crankshaft is. So you have to be able to make 2 full turns on the crankshaft for that camshaft to have gone around 1 full turn. So you know
everything is moving?
Yeah, everything is moving like it should. I wonder what we'll find.
When this is all done, it's going on the dyno.
It's going on the dyno.
So we're going to do all the machine work make it hopefully look like it came from the factory instead of looking like it sat in a junkyard for 49 years. And run it on the dyno. We're not necessarily trying to see how many horsepower it makes.
We're not. We just want to verify that,
it works.
everything works on it. And where you can program that to run the speed up and down and vary the loads, I think we want to put this on there and run it for quite a while to really break it in. We're going to have to rebuild the carburetor, probably put an igniter kit in the distributor, new wires, all the stuff you see on the outside, and who knows what we find inside a junkyard motor. Look how crumbly those are.
Yeah,
Broken spark plug.
What is broke? Works.
And as far as I'm concerned, you just throw that away, I think.
How about cash box?
As long as you got it on the video, we'll remember.
I'll remember.
Okay.
Mess.
You can throw that hose away because that's not factory anyway. And the cap, we'll have to wash that up good.
There it goes. Watch your face.
You trying to get me? It's coming. What am I hung upon? The wire?
Everything's free, so.
Old and dry. Points look quite burned. It was probably due for a tune-up about the time it was shut down.
From Oco.
But yeah, be careful of this line. We don't want to bend that. So you got a picture of how this goes together?
I can take another one, but.
Take one more. How that spring is on there. They come loose.
That one did. I don't know if they're all gonna.
All the grease on this thing is just completely dried up.
Yeah.
Makes all the bolts tough to get out because you have to wrench them the whole length if there's any grease dried up in the threads.
The bolts that are covered in grease are the only ones that were loose. That works pretty good. Looks pretty carbony. But there's nothing crazy there yet.
You ready to see what's in here?
Sure. What do you see?
Well, a little bit of rust. I think just from kind of condensation, it's not really rusted out or anything. Carburetor still has the ID tag on it, so I'll make it easier to get a kit for it. Just be careful those. Those should slip out, but they're rusted in, so we're gonna have to work with that. There it finally comes.
That spark plug's a little rusty on
Yeah, that's not looking good.
the rest are.
Which cylinder is that?
That's
Number one?
So number one spark plug has some rust on it. The rest just look like carbon. All the spark plugs on this side look probably like you'd expect. Not seeing any rust or anything.
No, they look fine. Look, it had pink antifreeze in it. I'll bet this was one that had Prestone in it back in the day. I think Prestone was pink. Well, that's looking good, isn't it?
I think so.
That side looks even better.
Yeah.
This side here, you can see kind of the brown color on the rocker arm nuts. This side, they're almost shiny yet. So this is the side that the breather was pulling fresh air in.
Yeah.
And this is the side where the PCV valve was back here pulling the air out. So this side got more of the dirty fumes, where this side got more of the clean air coming back in.
Huh. It sounds like something's hitting over here.
Does it? Something I wanted to point out here, on these intake manifold bolts, Ford uses a little real thin aluminum washer under the head of every single bolt to seal that up so they don't seep oil up around them. It's like that's been on there 50 years. There it goes. You know what though? This was back when they had real gaskets. Those are asbestos.
Asbestos?
Yeah. Take a good whiff of that as we pull that apart. I see the crossover here is completely plugged with carbon.
It is.
That was something, these old carbureted motors, that would get plugged up with carbon, so then your heat riser down on the exhaust manifold would not be able to push any exhaust across, and then they'd be super cold-blooded towards warming the carburetor up.
This one's got a little bit of rust, but I think it looks like what the carb had on the inside, just a little bit of.
I'd say the water pump's probably been changed at some point in time, because there's a lot of old Indian head shellac gasket sealer on here. Factory wouldn't have used that. There it goes. Not a lot of wear. If that is, well, I'm sure it is standard, because those are original gaskets. I'd say that was probably a pretty good motor when it was parked. Just looking at this side, you can see there's carbon all the way to the outside edge of the pistons. It obviously was not burning oil.
Okay, well, we're still stuck.
Okay. Well, the problem is on that side there. They are sunk down in quite a bit. I would have thought originally they would have been more proud up into the cylinder or into the combustion chamber. They do have looks like the real small combustion chambers.
What'd the tips of the valves look like on this side? I forgot to look.
About like I would expect. Nothing to get excited about.
Well, let's see if there is something to get excited about on this side.
I think there will be. Those are tough gaskets. Ooh. That's not the words I wanted to hear.
Oh, it's not as exciting as a mouse nest.
Ooh.
But it's sure rusty.
Why? That's one of them you yank
Yeah,
and cut yourself. That's an original Ford gasket. Right there's the part number. C3AE 6051G. You know, those are kind of dark in between. Do you suppose this thing has maybe been a little bit warm somewhere along the way?
I don't know. Gross. Why does it do that?
Condensation just kind of kept building under, just like your stalactites in a
cave.
In a cave, yeah. Look at the carbon buildup around this valve here. How heavy, how thick that is.
Huh.
Boy, you just don't see that on new engines anymore. Look how there's a trail here where it came down,
Yeah.
and I don't know, kind of rusty wear on that side there. That piston, I would say, had definitely been down.
That's it.
It gets right there and it's stuck. Run it down, let's take a wire wheel and buff that off a little.
Look at that.
Say what?
Look at that.
How about that?
Let's put the heads back on and run it.
You know, if it wasn't for the chance of totally ruining this engine,
You would.
this would be a really fun one to just put it back together and put it on the dyno and see what happens. And then you could do your before and after.
All the lifters look pretty good.
Yeah, those would have run a long time yet.
Except for that one. That one may have to come out after.
This is what flat tappet cams used to look like. There's one, if you look at it, it's starting to cup out just a little bit.
The light hits it, yeah. Whereas the other ones are,
Well, like
you don't
this.
see that ring.
No, this one.
Well, we solved the mystery of why it turned. We still don't really know
We don't
where
know.
that moisture came from.
Yeah, we don't know really where it came from.
How
But
bad?
now, run that back down.
You see?
Well, I see a cylinder that,
May not clean up at 20.
that rust eats deep into the casting, and I'll bet we end up having to put a sleeve in that.
Might have to.
Yeah,
See what it looks like when it's cleaned
yeah.
up.
Especially if he wants to keep this 20 over, it's going to have a sleeve in there. I mean, we can run the bar down through there first.
See what it looks like.
Yeah. But I'll bet that rust is going to be deeper than just boring the cylinder will take care of. We need to be very careful of this. It still has a good roller on there for the clutch bell crank. You know, this might be fun to cut that filter open
See what's in
and
there.
see what's inside it.
Save it.
Should we save it for that?
Yeah.
See what a 50-year-old oil filter looked like
Yeah.
compared to today's filters.
Okay, am I done?
Don't make me answer that. Please don't make me answer that.
You have an extendo?
Not here. Got it? Look at all that stuff built up in the bottom. Crusty, hard.
Yeah.
Now, I would say a lot of that is lead out of your gasoline,
Yeah.
and we no longer see that because they've removed all the lead. But that used to be common occurrence in these old engines.
Ooh, there's coolant. Too late now, I guess.
It did have Prestone in it.
Now that we cleaned up that rust in the cylinder, it turns really nice.
Yeah.
That rust looked like it had been there a long time, right?
Yeah, that didn't
Not-
just happen. But it was weird the way it had that trail that went down the
Yeah.
side of the cylinder.
Turns really nice now.
Take the pickup tube off, save it, and you can trash the oil pump. So now this fuel pump is one that we could probably get a kit and rebuild it.
Yeah.
I suppose we probably better do that for them. So it looks like the original pump.
It's time to eat. I'm gonna go eat.
Okay, let's go eat.
Fomoco. 12 of 65. Those look really good. I don't want to ding up the crank. Aside from the marks from my hammer, that bearing looks really good. Huh. So there's our rusty one. Now that bearing has a little bit of wear on it there. There it went. The comparable Chevy, roughly size, what is its stroke length?
Well, like a 283 Chevy, they would be 3-inch stroke and 3 7/8 bore.
Whereas this is 4-inch
4-inch bore
and 2
and-
and 6/7, or
Yeah, I can't remember right off, but they're shorter stroke then, little short rods.
they look so goofy with little tiny short rods. And this, you can just tell the deck is short.
But the bottom end stays together real well on these. They don't have much bearing problem.
It is original bearings too.
Are they? What's the date on them?
12 of 65. Okay, let's get our new hydraulic balancer removal and install tool out. Okay, 1, 2. How many more bolts have we even got in here? There it goes. That's pretty loose. Ugh, that smells. Just like the rod bearings. I think I see a 66 there. Crank looks good, from what I can tell here. That lifter that wouldn't come up, I can't really tell as though it's got anything on it that would have kept it from coming up through there, but it did. I think all the main bearings look pretty good. just like the rod bearings did. There's
Yeah.
a couple. I guess we didn't ever actually go back through the rod bearings, but I mean, almost all of them pretty much don't have.
Not worn into the,
Into the
copper.
copper. This one is. It's got a little spot.
Yeah,
that's,
one little spot there.
So what number is that? Number 8, 3 or 8? I can't tell.
Huh.
But most of them, I think, look pretty good.
Well, the piston skirts look good. You can still see all the original machining marks in those skirts.
This one is probably the worst worn bearing, and it's still not terrible.
Now, as I recall, there were, I don't know if it's these or 302s,
Let me see that rack.
sometimes would have cracked skirts on pistons. But I'm not seeing any indication. Well, wait a minute. No, there's no indication of that here. I think the rings are fine yet. The oil ring has not worn down to where the expander is touching a cylinder. So they're still doing their job. Yeah, that cam actually looks real nice yet. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And look at this. Still had the nylon timing gear on it. And it has some wear.
It was really sloppy.
Was it?
Yeah.
But it's not, the teeth aren't cracked and flaking off or anything.
No, but the chain was pretty
Chain,
sloppy.
okay.
So, okay, let's get the block off here. Let's get the cam bearings out, then get the block off, get these plugs out, and
We'll
take
be
the
ready
heads
to start
apart.
cleaning.
Take the heads apart and start cleaning. You know, I would say even with that one cylinder that maybe needs a sleeve,
Yeah.
do you suppose this is still about as nice of a 289 as you would find?
Well, what I noticed on this, since this basically ran 10 years and has been in storage ever since, it feels more like working on a new engine.
Yeah.
So much of this old stuff we get in has already been built 5 times before we ever see it. But even looking at the cam bearings here, you know, a lot of times you find the bearing material flaking away, and these absolutely are not doing any of that. There you are.
Tired to swing.
So it had a rope rear seal.
Yeah.
We'll put the neoprene back in.
Yeah.
Clean better with that out of there.
What do you think of this balancer?
I don't know if maybe the rubber in between is fine, yet it just looks bad on the outside.
I don't know. Wait, we'll have to look a little
Clean
closer.
it up and we'll look at it
Can I
closer.
toss the chain?
Yes. So I guess I need to call the guy who owns this and see if he wants a sleeve in there or bigger bore size or what we're going to run into.
Probably.
Can I quiz him a little bit before we start?
No any oil on it?
In a second.
That stuff just immediately evaporates off.
Immediately evaporates into carcinogens.
Yeah.
Somewhere around here we still got that candle too. Okay.
Just makes a mess. Can you get the long
Yes.
drill bit?
Hammer still here?
No, well, the big one is.
I don't know if that'll be big enough. There, they're out.
So that should be ready to bake.
Yes.
So our cleaning process, in case there's new people watching who haven't seen us do a teardown and talk about cleaning, this is a industrial bake oven, pretty much the same as your kitchen oven, but what we use it for here is to put any cast iron or steel parts in there, heat it up to what, 600 degrees?
Yeah, about 650 is where we usually go.
And bake it for 4 to 6 hours, and that'll bake all of the oil, bake all the oil off, bake all the grease off, bake all the paint off, usually, and depending on how good a paint it is.
Yeah.
And when it's done, it'll be perfectly dry, and a lot of that grease will just be dust. It'll just crumble off, and then we can go here in the glass bead cabinet and abrasively clean, blocks. Some of it will fit in our steel shot machine here, and again, it's an abrasive cleaning process. But long story short, when we're done cleaning this, it's going to look like a brand new casting. Or that's the goal.
That's the goal, is make it look new.
We need to pop the pistons off, and we need to tear down the heads. So maybe can you kind of clear a little bit of the area to do heads, and I'll go pop pistons off?
That sounds good.
Somebody should calculate if that's a 2/1000 press fit on what size pin is that? How much force does it take to overcome that? Okay, we're gonna push the bolts out of these too, because we'll probably put ARP bolts back in when we resize the rods. But we'll keep them just in case. Those are on the verge of pretty rinky-dink bolts, if you ask me. So there's the piston that was on the cylinder with rust in it. Okay, first head's disassembled off camera because I don't know why. But we were saying we think he's got a pretty good engine here, despite potentially needing a sleeve. So we
will put all new valves in it, but let's hang on to 2 of them to match our new valves too. Ford had a thing about different length valves, different places where they put the keeper grooves. Want to make sure we get the right ones when we go back together. It's just an incredible amount of carbon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that all build up around the valves here. That is so unusual to see today.
Where's the other head?
Over here with the scrap. Yeah?
Alright. So if we go to a roller cam, what do you typically change on these?
Well, first thing we're going to change is put positive valve stem seals back on instead of the umbrellas.
Pretty standard for what we always do.
Yeah, standard for what we'd always do. But we're also going, how many of the seals are broken up?
I don't know, and I
Maybe.
don't know that they're...
Maybe half of them.
I don't know that I didn't break them, so...
Okay. But at the very least, it'll have to have different valve springs on it and make accommodations, I'm assuming, for a little bit higher lift.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if the stock cam, or if the roller cam was not higher lift than the stock cam was.
So the backside of the exhaust valve on our rusted cylinder looks not rusty. But the intake has some rust to it. I don't know if that means anything or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm just trying to
Figure out where
did
the
water
moisture
come
came from. I would come closer to thinking the moisture came from the intake side rather than the
Yeah.
exhaust.
And look at this intake on,
Oh yeah, that one definitely had water sitting behind it, but the valve was closed.
and this valve maybe was open.
Yeah.
Number 2 has it all behind the valve, but I don't think it got into the cylinder. But number 1, it was, all that stuff was going into the cylinder. And just like you said, just a gnarly amount of carbon for a motor that ran 10 years. I don't know what they looked like after 10 years back then. I wasn't there when they were only 10 years old. You saw some of this stuff when it was only 10 years old, but I only ever see it when it has
Well, I was a 10-year-old kid when this was
new.
born.
But you know what I mean? I only see them after the 3rd rebuild 50 years down the line,
But yeah, this one has a lot of carbon,
but not a lot of wear.
but not a lot of wear.
Okay, so from here, we have to get all this baked and cleaned. You're going to wash the crank in the hopes that maybe we can just polish it and keep it standard. I don't know, pretty clean for coming out of a junkyard. We were a
And
little
for
bit,
having sat in a junkyard for that long.
yeah. This isn't ideal, but it could have been worse. And actually, it probably would have been worse if there was a mouse nest in there.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the mice pee on stuff and then it just,
Yeah, that just really rusts bad.
so. All right, stay tuned. We're going to try to crank through this machine work pretty quick here.
Yeah,
since it's a stock
like
build, and
to stay on this and just boom, boom, boom till we get this one done.
get it on the dyno and see what it does.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Like, subscribe, follow, buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, you got to start pushing those T-shirts a little bit harder because I'm not going to be able to afford our quarterly pizza party if you don't get on it. So.
Okay.
When we called Larry to discuss the build, we were saddened to hear that he had passed away. We were able to get in touch with his son, who the engine is for, and he gave us the go-ahead to move forward. Larry told us he wanted plenty of video coverage on the project, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Our thoughts are with his family.